Now, the High Court has ruled WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange can be extradited to the US from the UK. Assange is wanted by the US for publishing thousands of secret documents in 2010 and 2011. And we also have heard since this announcement in the Sunday papers that Assange has suffered some kind of a stroke. I went to meet Assange in 17. I went to meet Assange at the embassy where he'd been holed up, and we had a conversation about various things. It all, of course, was completely misinterpreted by the press, that I was somehow running secret, files between him and Trump. I mean, the whole thing was astonishing. I actually went because at the time I was working with LBC and they wanted to try and get me to do an interview with him. I guess, Arlene, if you're extradited to the USA on a charge like that, you never see light of day again, do you?
Well, I think they've been giving some reassurances to the judiciary here that they won't put him into a high-security prison. He's been in Belmarsh prison, as I understand it, which is quite incredible given the suicide risk that is there. Before that, of course, he was in the embassy in a sort of an open way, but obviously he's been in a sort of a lockdown situation for nearly, is it 10 years now?
Yes, he must be 10.
Yeah. He was actually in Norfolk or Suffolk, I think it was, for a while, being holed up there. So it's a great number of years. I mean, I think the whole decision is appalling, I have to say. I think what we're seeing is a political extradition. This is somebody who, if he had done what he did as an American citizen, as an American journalist, would have been protected by the First Amendment. But because he's not an American citizen, apparently he's fair game. Now, what did he do? He released classified information which showed that the US was up to no good in all sorts of ways in terms of rendition and torture. It was hugely embarrassing for the United States government, but there you go. If you do that sort of stuff, you've got to risk it being uncovered at some point. Now, OK, he released it in a way that was a bit crude. But at the end of the day, that is what journalists do. They find when their governments or when governments across the world are doing wrong, and they expose it. And we've got this kind of extradition treaty, which I think was signed in 2003 between ourselves and America.
This is the Blair Treaty.
Yeah, which essentially allows America to demand that we extradite somebody who may not even have committed the crime in America. Wow. Maybe someone living in the UK and committed the alleged crime in the UK, but can still be effectively transported to America. So I think it's
that treaty is awful.
It's an appalling piece.
A friend of mine was extradited. A friend of mine, businessman, was extradited to the USA, and it was done. And there were a couple of court hearings. And when my friend's brief asked, would the Americans be presenting some prima facie evidence? The American response was, no, we don't need to.
And,
I mean, that's how bad the treaty is.
Wow.
And this, I think, can only be seen. I mean, I'm not a great fan of Assange as a person. I mean, I have to say that. But that's, in many respects, that's not the point. But as I say, it's a political extradition, and it has to be seen, in my view, as an attack on journalistic freedom. What will future journalists who discover something about the US government or another government which is clearly highly sensitive, and they think about putting that in the public domain, in the public interest, but they think, Assange is now.
But there is a limit, Paul, isn't there? There is a limit. I mean, you could argue that there are some government secrets or some government things that may get hacked, that perhaps it's inappropriate to do that. For example, the nuclear codes or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So all I would say with Assange and others like him is your basic general point I get, but I do think there are some limits to it.
And I accept that, but I don't think there's any evidence that with the information that Assange released that it has led to the death of a single person.
Not in Assange's case.
In Assange's case. And, the truth is what he released about the US and what it was up to was absolutely in the public interest. So it's a really serious issue, I think. And it's not being covered by the media, and it should be covered by the media of all people.
No, and they don't
want to suffer under
it's a story that they don't want to know about.